I'm writing this because my hands are still shaking, and I need the collective judgment of strangers to confirm that what I did wasn't just petty, but necessary. If that sounds dramatic, blame the hole my ex-high school sweetheart blew through my life when she popped back in after 13 years with a 4-sentence DM. Hey Mark, remember our silly pact? 32 is coming fast. I'm still single. You? At first, the message felt like an echo from a lighter timeline. Back in senior year, Lauren and I sat on the grimy bleachers after a football game, making half-baked promises about the future. We swore that if we were both 32 and unattached, we'd marry each other and laugh at the universe. It was never romantic after graduation. Life scattered us to opposite coasts, and the pact became more meme than memory. But on the day her DM arrived, I was 31 years, 11 months, and 6 days old, stuck in a dead-end audit job, and coasting through a 3-year relationship with Danny, gentle, stable Danny, who kept hinting at rings while I kept dodging jewelry ads. When I showed Danny the message, expecting her to laugh, she just said, "Cute, delete it." That clipped tone made me realize how badly I'd been craving excitement. So I answered Lauren. That evening we video chatted. She looked exactly like the version in my yearbook photo, only sharper, like someone had turned up the resolution. Same dark eyes that dared the world to bore her. Same machine gun laugh. She told me she'd bounced between startups, hadn't found the one foon, and wanted to honor the old pact because romantic serendipity was dead, and we might as well give the universe the finger together. It felt reckless, dumb, and perfect. 3 weeks later, I broke up with Danny. She cried, called me a coward, asked if there was someone else. I told her no, lied about needing space, packed a suitcase, and flew to Portland where Lauren lived. The first night we met in real life again, we got tipsy on cheap Pinot and eloped at a courthouse covered in construction tarps. We posted a picture to Instagram titled, "Did a Thing," and my notifications erupted like shaken soda. My parents thought it was a prank. It wasn't. Marriage with Lauren felt like sprinting downhill, thrilling in a way that promised pain if I tripped. We Airbnb hopped around the Pacific Northwest, working remotely in cafes, pretending we were Bonnie and Clyde except we tipped well. She kept saying we had to stay legally married for at least 6 months for administrative reasons, which she waved away as insurance bureaucracy. I didn't pry. My head was still spinning from the suddenness of it all. Then the coincidences piled up. First, a thick binder of legal documents appeared on our Airbnb kitchen table one morning. Lauren said it was her grandmother's trust paperwork and asked me to sign a witness page. I flipped through out of habit, occupational hazard of being an auditor, and caught a clause. Beneficiary to receive full disbursement of principal, $750,000, upon legal marriage prior to 32nd birthday, contingent on marriage persisting at least 6 consecutive months. It nudged a worry in my gut, but Lauren said her lawyer insisted on privacy and I was overthinking. Second, I overheard a late-night phone call while brushing my teeth. Lauren was in the bedroom with the door cracked. She whispered, "6 months, babe. Chill. Then we're set." I froze, mouth full of mint foam, heart pounding. The other voice, a man, laughed and said something about Bora Bora. She told him to delete their texts. Third, she began urging me to quit my job and pursue passion projects while she covered rent from family money. I'd told her about my dream of opening a board game cafe. Suddenly she was pushing loans, drafting business plans in my name, talking about leveraging my credit score. The pushiness felt off. The pieces slid together into a picture I didn't want to see. I wasn't a husband. I was a prop with a pulse and a social security number. That realization should have flattened me with regret. But instead, it ignited a very specific anger, the kind that crackles cold instead of hot. I didn't want to crawl back to Danny or beg Lauren for honesty. I wanted every domino she'd lined up to topple on her. Here's where my profession became a weapon. Auditors dig for buried motives. We know how paper breathes. While Lauren slept, I photographed every page of that trust binder onto a thumb drive. By day, I played the enamored newlywed, learning her favorite latte order and watching her rehearse lies. By night, I traced the trust. Grandma Edith, it turned out, had been sharper than Lauren credited. The marriage clause had a poison pill. If the trustee discovered deception, material to the formation of said marriage, the beneficiary forfeited everything to a wildlife conservation fund. Proof could be anything from infidelity to coercion. The clause named the trustee as Edith's longtime attorney, Benjamin Crawford, still practicing law in Salem. Stage 1 of revenge was information. I used an old college contact at an insurance carrier to pull call logs showing Lauren adding me to her health plan the day after we married, citing spouse status. I scraped her Venmo activity and found cryptic payments to an account labeled Eli 3 with beach emojis. I compiled screenshots of her messages. She never logged out of her laptop. Stage 2 was timing. The trust payout was scheduled exactly 3 days after Lauren's 32nd birthday, pending confirmation of marriage. If I blew the whistle before the funds transferred, Crawford might delay disbursement, giving Lauren time to spin a narrative of misunderstanding. If I waited until the money hit her account, asset reclamation would trigger tax chaos and civil penalties. Better. Stage 3 was sabotage. Lauren wanted me to sign a small business loan application using my credit. She set up a banker meeting for the same Friday the trust would wire funds. Perfect overlap. I played along. On the Thursday night before everything detonated, I lay beside her in bed, listening to her breathing, wondering if she felt any weight at all. She stirred and mumbled, "We're going to be so happy, Mark." I answered, "I know," and meant it in a way she couldn't imagine. Friday opened like any other Pacific Northwest morning. Gray, drizzly, forgettable, but it ended carved into my memory. 9:00 a.m., bank meeting. Lauren dazzled the loan officer with a PowerPoint about the board game cafe. I acted enthused, signed preliminary forms that did nothing binding, and made sure to ask for copies. Lauren thought those papers would leverage my credit alongside her new windfall. 11:30 a.m., trust disbursement. While Lauren FaceTimed a friend about celebratory oysters, an ACH transfer dropped $750,000 into her checking account. She showed me the screen like a kid unveiling a science fair ribbon. I kissed her forehead and suggested we splurge on lunch. 1:00 p.m., lunch at a waterfront restaurant. I excused myself to the restroom and instead stepped outside to a waiting Uber. 1:45 p.m., law office of Benjamin Crawford. I handed the paralegal an envelope thicker than a Russian novel. Screenshots, audio files, bank statements, the signed loan forms proving Lauren's plan to dump debt on me post-payout. Crawford listened to a 30-second clip of Lauren's whisper to Eli and sighed like he'd expected this day. He promised action by close of business. 3:10 p.m. Phone off airplane mode. 12 missed calls from Lauren shifted instantly to an incoming one. I answered. She was frantic. "Where are you? Did you get sick? The waiter said you left." I told her I'd explain at home. 4 p.m. I arrived at our Airbnb first. I packed my bag methodically. On her side of the closet, I left the ring box empty. 4:20 p.m. Lauren burst in, cheeks flushed from running through rain. Before she could launch into questions, her phone pinged with a new email. I watched her face blanch as she read, "Notification of trust suspension pending investigation." Another ping, "Bank account frozen under court order." She looked at me with a raw mix of terror and confusion. I said only, "Administrative reasons, remember?" She lunged, called me every synonym for bastard, accused me of hacking her accounts. I left while she was mid-scream. 2 hours later, I was on a flight back to Denver, divorce forms scheduled for electronic delivery the moment the 6-month mark passed, ensuring she couldn't claim it was an impulsive annulment that might salvage the trust. I fell asleep before takeoff. Over the next weeks, fallout bloomed. The loan officer flagged the application for fraud, citing my written statement that I never intended to proceed. My credit remained pristine. Lauren's took a torpedo. The conservation fund received Edith's money plus punitive interest. They sent me a thank you letter, unaware of my role, and invited me to a donor gala. I declined. Lauren tried calling, texting, emailing. I blocked everything. One rainy Sunday, she left a voicemail from a burner phone, sobbing that I'd ruined her life, that she'd loved me in her own way. I saved it just in case, but never responded. Danny reached out through a mutual friend, mostly curious. I drafted an apology, then deleted it. She didn't owe me closure, and I didn't deserve a fresh start built on her forgiveness. Instead, I poured my signing bonus from a new audit firm into quietly opening the board game cafe, solo. No loans, no spouse. The grand opening drew a modest crowd, and for the first time in forever, I felt the air wasn't stale. 6 months after everything, a certified letter arrived from Lauren's attorney proposing an amicable divorce with no claims to assets. The enclosed questionnaire asked for my preferred method of property division. I replied with 2 words: keep everything. She had nothing I wanted. Court finalized the divorce in under 10 minutes via video hearing. The judge asked the standard question about irreconcilable differences. I said, "Yes, Your Honor." Lauren's image flickered on screen, eyes hollow, hair unkempt. She avoided looking at me. When the call ended, she tried to say something, but connection dropped. Or maybe I hung up first. Hard to remember. People ask if I regret detonating my own life just to make sure hers burned brighter. The honest answer? Not really. She sucker punched me with manipulation. I answered with a professional-grade counterblow. Auditors chase truth, and sometimes truth is a wrecking ball. I keep the thumb drive in a fireproof box, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that charisma without integrity is a loaded gun. I did learn one lesson about pacts. The only promises worth keeping are the ones that still make sense in daylight. After graduation, our circles barely overlapped. I went to Colorado State, majored in accounting, and joined a co-ed intramural dodgeball team that justified beer every night. Lauren bounced to a liberal arts college in Oregon, studied something interdisciplinary with a 70-character name, and posted cryptic poetry online. We liked each other's posts out of habit, but for the most part, she was a ghost on my periphery. Until that DM. A week after reconnecting, she dug out a box of old class photos during a video call. The Wi-Fi kept freezing, hanging her mid-sentence with her mouth crooked, but I could still feel the nostalgia she was weaponizing. She held up a Polaroid of us in junior prom attire, my rented tux several shades too large, her dress a garish shade of teal that matched the cafeteria walls. For a moment, the cheap paneled walls of my Denver apartment disappeared, and I was 17 again, worried only about AP exams and whether I'd get benched in the next basketball game. Nostalgia, I learned, is just marketing copy for memories. I was also lazy in my comfort with Danny. Here's an unromantic confession. Our relationship had drifted into a roommate with benefits arrangement, calendarized affection nestled between bill due dates. We never fought. We never surprised each other either. When Lauren's name appeared on my phone, it felt like a flare over a dark sea, signaling that something, somewhere, was still capable of startling me. I mistook adrenaline for destiny. Breaking up with Danny took 3 conversations. First, I floated a trial separation. She countered with couples therapy. Second, I admitted I might have feelings for someone else. She demanded a name. I deflected, citing privacy. Third, she handed me a cardboard box of my things, eyes swollen from crying all night, and said, "I hope nostalgia keeps you warm." It was the cruelest sentence she ever uttered, because it was also the truest. I left our shared keys on the counter and closed the door on a chapter that had been gentle but already dead. My arrival in Portland was cinematic. Drizzle beating on taxi windows, neon coffee shop signs glowing like jade. Lauren waiting outside baggage claim in a yellow raincoat that made her look like a cheerful traffic cone. She leapt into my arms before I'd even retrieved my suitcase. A stranger snapped our photo and told us we looked like an indie movie poster. That's how the madness started, under fluorescent airport lights that made everything feel surreal and low budget. Planning revenge required precision bordering on obsession. I created a spreadsheet with color-coded cells. Green for confirmed evidence, yellow for threads to pull, red for anything that might blow back on me legally. Under yellow, I listed recorder laws. Oregon is a one-party consent state, and check trustees' political donations, potential leverage. Nights blurred into mornings as I mapped timelines. Lauren's birthday at T0. Trust payout at T0 plus 4 hours. Probable Eli vacation at T0 plus 2 weeks. I hated her more efficiently than I'd ever loved her. The friend at the insurance carrier, Mallory, owed me for covering up a misfiled expense report back when we shared a cubicle labyrinth. I called in the marker, and she pulled subscriber ad forms that showed Lauren listing emergency appendectomy as my potential claim reason. That little fabrication looked small on paper, but signaled intent. I was a means to an insurance end just as much as to a trust inheritance. I logged the PDF into green. I also needed a clean exit path. I contacted a colleague in Denver about an opening at a competing audit firm. He had an offer letter ready within days. Accepting it meant I could frame my Portland escapade as a sabbatical rather than a career implosion. To cover airline costs, I liquidated a minor crypto stash, ironically the riskiest investment I'd ever made until marrying Lauren. The morning before the bank meeting, Lauren brewed coffee and hummed "Here Comes the Bride." I counted teaspoons of sugar she never used as she scrolled a travel site, adding luxury resorts to a favorites list called Post-Loan Honeymoon. She would pause to check the clock, anxious about the trust wire hitting. Each glance tightened the knot in my stomach, not from guilt, but from anticipation. I wondered if executioners felt something similar while waiting for the hour of sentence. When I walked out of the restaurant at lunch, I didn't run. I moved at an unhurried pace, each step a confirmation that hesitation was finished running my life. The Uber driver had talk radio blaring a segment on tax fraud. I almost laughed. Inside Crawford's office, heavy with oak furniture, I sat beneath a portrait of Grandma Edith looking stern and smart. I imagined her ghost nodding approval as I laid out the dossier. Crawford's handshake afterward was brisk and cold, professional courtesy mixed with moral satisfaction. He didn't thank me. He just assured me the trust had contingencies for exactly this scenario. For once, fine print felt like poetry. The cleanup phase after the divorce was surprisingly calm because I refused to engage. My lawyer, who billed in 6-minute increments, told me stonewalling often backfired. I reminded him that engagement was Lauren's oxygen. Suffocation was the point. Eventually, she ran out of ways to shadowbox a silhouette. Opening the cafe took longer than revenge because legitimate construction permits involve more paperwork than collapsing a fraudulent marriage. The night before opening, I stood on a stepladder screwing the last ceiling panel in place when my phone buzzed with a new email. Lauren had filed Chapter 13 bankruptcy. A spreadsheet of repayment schedules followed. I felt neither triumph nor sympathy, just a hollow click of inevitability, like the lid of a puzzle box snapping shut. One slow Tuesday afternoon at the cafe, a teenager asked if the marriage pact story on Reddit was really mine. I shrugged and said the internet has a knack for turning private disasters into collective bedtime stories. He filmed a 30-second TikTok outside anyway. If you stumble on a clip of a bearded guy waving from a board game cafe called Critical Hit, that's me moving on. Sometimes at closing time, I lock the door, dim the lights, and set up a solo chessboard. I play both sides until one wins decisively. There's a lesson in that. Control both narratives, and you guarantee victory. I've learned to live with checkmates instead of reconciliations. Yesterday, a customer at the cafe recognized me from high school. She asked if I'd ever catch up with old friends online. I smiled and said I prefer real-life games to social media these days. She chuckled, bought a latte, and joined a table playing cooperative survival. I watched them strategize, voices overlapping, dice clattering. A small, honest chaos without hidden clauses. That felt like enough. If you're reading this, weighing a leap into nostalgia, remember, history can be a trap weighted with rose-tinted bait. Ask yourself whether the person reaching back remembers you, or just remembers your usefulness. And if you're wondering whether revenge made me happy, here's the anticlimactic truth. It didn't make me happy, but it made me free. Freedom, it turns out, is plenty. So, internet strangers, judge me if you want. Call me vindictive, call me cold. I won't argue. But know this, when the ground beneath you is rigged with someone else's landmines, sometimes the safest move is to light the fuse yourself and sprint the other way. I sprinted. I haven't looked back. That's my story, and I own every moment.